Broncos news. Good evening, Broncos country, and welcome to the season-ending edition of the Post-Whatever podcast here at Bourbon Broncos No BS. Tonight, obviously, with no Broncos game, unfortunately, we're going to be taking a look back at the season as a whole and going through and just kind of reliving everything that we saw this season, all the highlights, maybe some of the lowlights, but definitely ending on a strong note because that's how the Broncos ended. So this is the last Monday night show of the season, and we're just going to have a great time with it. Now, got a couple things out of the way. Get out of the way first, guys. First off, Breckenridge Distillery 5280 Broncos blend, guys. This stuff is delicious. We got an announcement concerning them on tomorrow night's show, which is the Fan Appreciation Night. So tomorrow at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, you are going to want to tune in because we have a ton of Broncos giveaways. We're going to have potentially a special guest depending on his availability. And you guys are just going to be there. I'm just going to hint that we might be giving away a jersey, maybe two. So tune in tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Mountain Time for the Fan Appreciation episode. Just our way of saying thanks to you guys. But enough of that. We got Scott the Flag Man. We got Adam. We got John. And guys, let's get ready to break down into this. So John, I'm going to hand this over to you first, man. Let's just start with rewinding the clock all the way back before week one. Let's go back to after preseason. We're 3-0 in preseason. And same question is going to go to the rest of you guys as well. What were your thoughts? What were you feeling going into this Broncos season? Sean Payton, second-year head coach. Bo Nix, new quarterback. Dead cap space out the wazoo. But where was your mindset and kind of how were you feeling, man?
Well, first of all, Kevin, it's a pleasure to see you, as always. Also, Mr. Flagman, Adam, good to see you guys as well. I have no idea how we're going to fit a whole season worth of content into 1 hour. We're going to go fast, and I'm starting out slow for you on purpose because I just want to take in everything that is this season, how amazing it was compared to what expectations were. To get back to your question, Kev. Expectations. You remind me of the 3-0 preseason.
I know,
was
right?
not expecting high expectations going into the season, and I'd say it was tapped down a little bit just because of where everyone was projecting the Broncos to be. We've talked about it ad nauseum on this show. Just no one gave us a fighting chance to have a successful season. And based on the roster, based on a rookie quarterback, what we had going on from last season. So expectations were probably slightly higher after preseason compared to pre-preseason. But just a lot of curiosity, was what we saw in preseason going to carry over into the regular season? Did I think we would be a playoff team going into the season? I think I had high hopes that we could be there, but I don't think I would have expected it to be totally fair to this team. So, coming into the season, pretty tapped down, like I said, compared to previous seasons, considering, we didn't have a big offseason trade. We didn't have a big offseason coaching addition. It was a lot of probably the lowest expectations I can think of starting the season, since, joining this show 8 years ago, which is crazy to think about all the sadness we've had. But that's a roundabout way to answer your question, so I'll hand it off before I take up the whole show answering it.
I love it. No, I love it. Adam, so yeah, same thing to you, man. What were you thinking?
Probably preseason, I was probably a lot like the rest of the national media. I was thinking that this was going to be a rough year. After preseason, I thought that we were going to be a tough out for almost any team that, like, our defense was going to play well enough to keep us in most games, and we were probably going to play a lot better towards the end than we were at the beginning. And then I want to say after that 3-0 preseason, I was still like, I don't know. It's preseason. Like, the Lions went undefeated in a preseason, and then proceeded to go perfect in, whatever. So the opposite direction. So I don't know. I after preseason, I was like, maybe like 5-12, something like that. And
5-12.
5-12.
You thought we were gonna hit the under? You thought we were gonna hit the under?
I thought we were gonna be right at. I really did think we were gonna with rookie quarterbacks and just all the variables and all the other stuff. Just,
Adam did not give into the preseason hype. It sounds like.
No, I did not. And the thing is, I think it was like an opposite thing because I usually do. I am always the optimist. I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna. And then this was like, no, I am going to be Mr. Cynical. I'm going to be Mr. Johnny Raincloud all season. And yeah, and of course, then we're a playoff team. So
it worked out. Whatever you need to do, Adam, just keep doing that.
Hey, if I got to do this every year, I will happily
take one for the team.
Hey Scott, man, same thing, dude. What were you thinking and feeling? Broncos sitting 3-0 after preseason.
First thing, we tailgate, so I have to do my preseason, which means I gotta build up some alcohol tolerance. So I tend to drink more during the preseason. I tend to be more positive during the preseason, and I tell you what, I was stoked when I saw how well Bo was picking things up and he was looking good in all those games. And what I tend to forget is it's preseason.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing anything, but I was really, and then we rolled into Seattle and I'm like, what the heck happened? Probably because I was at work and I couldn't drink. So I might have had a different take on it, but I was stoked up, and I'm always over the top. But I thought, we won 7-8 games last year.
8.
I thought we were going to at least win 8 again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
We won 8 with Russell Wilson, who how he even won 8, I don't know, other than we were taking the ball away from everybody. And think if we had actually scored when we took the ball away every time. All we were really doing is keeping them from scoring. So I was pretty positive. And I liked the way the defense looked. I liked a lot of the pickups. But I was pretty excited. And I thought we were going to roll in Seattle, even though I knew that was a tough start to the season. I just thought we were going to go up there and we were going to outlast them. And quite honestly, it took us a while to get going, but we were in that game. We were in the first 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I was always really positive. I was very, very bullish on where we were going this season. And, I bet the over on wins. I bet that they were going to finish second in the division. And had we done what we should have done against the Chargers, we would have. I had Bo Nix for Rookie of the Year. I had us making the playoffs, so I made a little money on my positivity. So,
right.
But I'm always pretty positive.
No, and that's why we love you, Scott. That's you're like me.
I can do it.
No, I think I took all the same bets as Scott here. I took playoffs. I took over 5.5 wins. That was an easy one. I think I boosted that to 6.5, 7.5. I can't remember for sure. I'm looking at these other ones. Knicks offensive rookie of the year. Probably not.
Probably
not. It's not out yet. It's not out yet.
He is
Just
finally.
saying. I got Knicks for season touchdowns, Knicks for season yards. He crushed it. So, yeah, it was a good betting season overall for those Broncos bets.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, let's look at those first two weeks there, guys. I think, preseason is preseason. And I get you're 3-0 in preseason, and you're probably feeling pretty good. But, man, that Seahawks game, at least gave us some hope. Like, look, going into Seattle in week 1 with a rookie quarterback, that's tough, but we were still able to hang with them. And that was a close game. But then, we come home versus the Steelers thinking, okay, if we could do that in Seattle, like we should be able to do better at home against the Steelers. And it wasn't even Wilson starting. It was whoever their backup is.
Justin Fields.
Justin Fields.
Justin Fields. And that one sucked. That one was just a boring defensive game. Now, look, you're looking at defense, right? Defense showed up, held the Steelers to only 13 points, but the Broncos only able to get 6. So, we started the season off 0-2.
A bad pick in the red zone.
Yep.
I mean, I was just kind of walking around down in the vestibule because I don't know what was going on. I had leg cramps or something, or just I don't know, walking off a beer or something. But I just remember
sobering up before you had to drive.
Hey, we're actually in this. Didn't we have a flea flicker in that game that got us down there?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, we're on it. We're going to win this thing.
Yeah.
But it's a rookie quarterback. He made a mistake.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at it this way. I know a lot of people were feeling pretty down and out once the Broncos started 0-2 against the Seahawks and the Steelers. I know I was right there too. All of a sudden, that 5-12 season prediction started looking more and more like a reality, right? But then something weird happened in week 3, guys. Something weird happened. We were supposed to go down to Tampa Bay and get absolutely demolished by Baker Mayfield. Nobody in their right mind, at least nobody wearing blue and orange goggles, had the Broncos winning that game. And the Broncos made their first statement to the NFL, winning on the road 26-7. And that was the first time that people kind of woke up and said, wait, what? Right. What's going on here? So take me back to that game, guys. Like, what was going through your head after you saw that?
That raised some eyebrows. This kind of felt like, all right, was that a fluke? Did the Broncos just catch a break? Did Tampa Bay just overlook us? Like, what happened here? Like, those first 2 games were close, yes, but it didn't feel like they were close. From my memory, anyways. It did not feel like they were 1-score games, even though they were. So to go down to Tampa and just absolutely smash, like, it's not even like you could say, like, oh, the Broncos got lucky. No, they went out there.
No. They both raced them.
I was confused. I was excited. Especially for my bets, like where you talked about.
Right.
But it gave us a little bit of hope. And to go back to those first 2 losses, it just felt like, in hindsight, maybe those were a lot of bit growing pains for Bo Nix here. And I think we saw the first big jump forward in this one against the Buccaneers.
Yeah. I mean, I was at the end of the day, like, you watch the game in summation, and at the end of it, I came away feeling like that looked really easy. That didn't that like almost too easy. Like, and it was I believe at the time Tampa was 2-1.
They were a favorite they were a big favorite in that game.
I mean, you even had that was kind of a big statement game from PS2 because he locked up Mike Williams or Mike Evans to the tone of like one catch for like almost nothing. And Nix played great. Like, it was night and day compared to the first 2 games. And so, this was kind of one of those, like, maybe on the best of days, this is what we're going to look like. And so that really did kind of give us a lot of, I mean, for anybody, that was just a really good win.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to watch a lot of it. I was working, and somebody was giving me the updates, and I'm like, is that backwards? Really? And then I got a break to go in the office, and I about fell down when I looked at where we really were. And I'm like, okay, we're on to something. But I thought, well, they had a bad game, but maybe Bo Nix really is going to speed it up and be way better than I thought.
Yeah.
So I was excited.
There was a lot of excitement in Broncos country, but it was only contained to Broncos country because when you go to the next week, again, on the road against the Jets, remember, this is where the Broncos were actually doing their training out in West Virginia. They stayed out on the East Coast. They didn't have an indoor practice facility, if I remember right, and they were practicing in the rain, in the bad weather.
A hurricane, literally a hurricane, right?
It literally, yeah. And the game itself turned out to be really, really crappy weather as well. But around the league, here we go again. I mean, everybody immediately dismissed the Broncos' huge win against the Bucs and said, oh, this Jets team, they're Super Bowl favorites. They got Aaron Rodgers. This wasn't even before they got Adams. This was, they got Aaron Rodgers. Right. You know, this team's going to demolish the Broncos on the road. You know, this is just, there's no way the Broncos are going to win. And it was a sloppy game for both sides offensively. But, man, guys, here we are at the end of week 4, and Broncos are sitting at 2-2, just stunning the NFL.
I think, first of all, you took some liberties there by saying this is a Super Bowl favorite team in the Jets.
There were some people out there that were this team is going to be so great.
Okay, there's some people that said the Raiders are Super Bowl favorites too. Let's keep that in mind.
Oh yeah, no, they were wrong, but they were saying it. They weren't talking good about the Broncos, but they were talking good about these other teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, this Jets game was ugly. It was just ugly, plain and simple. It was a weird weather game, weird preparation week. I don't like that's like the big storylines I really remember from this game. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for me anyway, this. In hindsight, it was one of those, like, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. But this was like one of those this is what defined kind of the Broncos a little bit for this season, is that they maybe not overachieved, but they played better than anybody thought they were capable of. And this was kind of the game that showed that, when they had every reason to lose this game. This is when this is before anybody knew that the Jets were on the precipice of melting down.
That's
we started the melt.
There we go.
That's an excellent point. But it was another one of those where, I mean, they're practicing on tennis courts in preparation for the game. I mean, if they would, and they stayed out on the East Coast. They didn't come back home, and they stayed out there for a competitive advantage. I would assume, and that ended up not being much of a advantage, and they still found a way to win. And now, a quarter of the way through the season, and you're 2-, like anybody would have said, you're going to be 2-2 after at the quarter mark of the season. Well, sign me up for that. Yeah, I'm good. Let's do it.
Yeah.
This game was the very first game I was actually able and remembered to place a first touchdown bet. And I'm driving home from work, and I'm listening to this game, and I hear touchdown. And I'm thinking, Courtland Sutton? And I had to pull over off the side of the road, off of 402, to make sure I actually did bet that. And it was like I had $25 on Courtland Sutton for the first touchdown. I'm making like $450 on this thing. And I was like, okay, I hope they win, but I'm going to make some money. And, I got home, and if I recall, it's like, what the hell happened? It was like, suddenly the Jets are back in this game, and we're missing field goals, and they're missing field goals. And I'm like, we're going to end up losing this game. And we probably deserve to lose it. Although the Jets didn't deserve to win it the way they did.
Neither team did. What you failed to mention there, Scott, is that the first TD came in the third quarter.
Yes, I know. That's why I was off.
It was the only TD.
Yep.
It was fantastic. And, it should have been there should have been another touchdown. Those zebras, they ought to give them all eye tests. And even if they pass it, give them glasses.
Get rid of them. Go to AI officiating. I don't know.
I don't know.
How we're still measuring.
You would think they had money on stuff.
Yeah.
But
I will say, because I didn't think about this at the time, but this was an ugly win, but it proved that we could win ugly games, right? Yes. And that was a common theme throughout this season, that we could win ugly when we needed to, which is a good sign for a team that's developing, right? That's just not something we could do in the past couple of years.
And bigger than that, on the road.
On the road. That's usually
on the road.
Crappy conditions.
On the road. In bad conditions.
So, yeah, it's a win. Yeah, it's ugly. You can talk shit as much as you want, but good teams find ways to win is the –
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
the term, right?
Yeah.
Well, I would say that kind of translates into the next game against the Raiders. And
that's just an ugly team.
Though, I mean, it's an ugly team. It's an ugly fan base. And, you know, we were dying to beat them, you know, at home, all that stuff. We were sitting 2-2. One of those turning points of the season. You can either be 2-3 or 3-2. And it did not look good early on. It did not look good at all. But it turned around when Pat Surtain got that interception, I think, in the end zone there and ran it back the length of the field. And all of a sudden, you saw that team turn it around. And you're talking about a team that doesn't give up at any point. You're talking about a team that is going to fight and win those ugly games. This was another example of, man, they got the grit, they got the determination, and they found a way to make it happen and ended up crushing the Raiders at the end of the game there, 34-18.
Yeah, that was it. I loved watching the black jerseys walk out.
Yeah,
they were quiet because remember in the parking lot, it was, you know, say what you will about the Raider fans, I've never really had a lot of issues with most of them, mainly because most of them are delusional. And a lot of them wear masks, so you don't even know they could be the nicest. I've always had good interactions with most at the games, although there's those.
Yeah.
But
you must be intimidating, Scott. You must be an intimidating guy, so they don't want to mess with you.
I just, you know. I drove that Kansas City Wolf guy to jail.
Yeah, you did.
Before he was at the tailgate, taking pictures, talking about flags. Next thing I know, he's in jail.
Were you in the Netflix episode?
No,
Did you get to be in the next?
I think it's Amazon, but yeah.
I
got a picture with him just a couple weeks before the news broke.
Did you?
Yep.
Good for you.
Yeah. He was on the tailgate.
Oh goodness!
And now he has his own Amazon documentary about robbing banks in his super fan outfit. And anyway,
I just walk in back as a cape, and they'd say, "Yeah, we're not giving you money." It'd be like the guy that tried to rob the bank up here in Loveland that they couldn't read his note.
Can you try writing this again? Like, what is this?
Yeah, he finally ended up walking out and running away.
You want to robe me? You want to robe me? Why are you wanting to robe me? Oh, man. But look, guys, at this point, the Broncos are sitting at 3-2, just because I got to keep us moving along for time. The next game, though, this is one of those games that, looking back at the season, you really wish you could have back. And you're talking about if one thing could have been different in that game, it could have definitely had a very different outcome. And that was Pat Surtain going down and out of the game very first play. Yeah. And you talk about not just a team, like just losing like their mojo, but you felt it in the stands. Like everyone was just like, oh, shit. Like this is worst case scenario. The Chargers felt it. They got all energized. And I mean, we hung in there with them. We only, again, lost by a score, 23-16, but they just were able to pick on us all game long. And, you know, at that point, we're back to 3-3. But what you guys think?
Yeah. This goes back to your previous point, Kev. That Pat Surtain pick six against the Raiders was a defining moment. I just looked it up. He's minus 550 in defensive player of the year. And that was a defining moment for the season for him. And then him to go to this game, this Chargers game, when he goes down, it changed the whole dynamic of the game, which might actually be an even bigger argument for defensive player of the game because, going like 23-16, it doesn't seem like a big loss. It seems like it's real close, but it's just like those first two games where it did not feel close at all. And all of a sudden we find ourselves only down a touchdown with like 2 minutes left or something. And I don't even remember this one specifically. What, like, did we need an onside to recover an onside kick to potentially have a chance?
I want to say that we tried.
So we only lost by 7, but really, like, it was more like 14. So that was a rough loss, especially after the emotional win against the Raiders, which, like, for so long we've lost against the Raiders for no freaking reason. So
right,
to win against the Raiders and feel so good, and then to come out like this game, it felt like more growing pains than anything. But yeah, those divisional losses are always painful, no matter what.
I think that's a good point. And it was such an emotional win against the Raiders. It was kind of a different vibe, kind of walking to the stadium for that Raider game, and just like it felt like this was not going to be Vegas's day at all. Right. And then even through the TV watching it the following week, like you could tell just like PS2 goes down, and then the whole energy of like the game and it just stopped, like
just gone.
And you just like you knew like, okay, it's not today. So kind of like it was like the highs being with that Raider game the week before, and then this was one of those like, man, if we could have had that game against Vegas or against LA, it would have been so nice to have in our back pocket towards the end of the season. But it is what it is.
Can I cut in, Scott, real quick? Yep. What's great? Well, thanks, Adam. But what's crazy about that, though, is like it's not like the Chargers at the time. I mean, this changed throughout the season, but at the time, they didn't have a crazy number one receiver that we needed to lock down. So again, the fact that losing someone like a 𝗕𝗿𝗲, who's not locking down like this amazing receiver, like we still should have been able to overcome this, and I think we will in the upcoming seasons. But just I think it shows to his leadership of just like the whole team just being like, oh crap, that's our best player. We just lost him. Now we can't seem to figure it out. It's like, but what are you figuring out? Like, you have to stop Herbert, sure. That's important, but who's he throwing to? Like at this point in the season, seriously, who's he throwing to? Sorry, Scott, I'll let you go.
2 points. One, I didn't like the fact that crappy team was bullying us around. They were running it at will, and we just looked like we were going to sit there and take it, which, I mean, we beat them every year at least once. This was not the team I was worried about. But they were running through us like nothing. It was like, what were we doing? Yeah. The other thing that just really stuck out is it was a continuation of the trend that had started in week 1. Slow starts.
Yeah.
Get a little something in the second quarter, and then you come out in the third quarter and you end up being way behind, and then you're just trying to pour it on in the fourth quarter to get to a spot where you actually have a chance. And that's what was kind of overall concerning is we got to figure out how to start third quarters. And it would really be nice if we could figure out how to start the first quarter. But it was a trend that we were developing that really was scaring the hell out of me. And I did not like being bullied by the Chargers.
Yeah.
Well, powder blue. Give me a
trust me, Scott. My whole family's Chargers fans, and but I will say this is where I first became concerned about Jim Harbaugh being back in the AFC West and coaching this team. It's like, oh, okay, they actually have a legitimate coach. This might be a problem for a while here. And honestly, it concerns me a little bit that Pete Carroll's coming back to the AFC West as well. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but I don't know. I thought the same thing, Adam. I thought the same thing with Jim, but or Mr. Harbaugh, as he likes to be called.
Mr.
I'm just saying, this is the first time I was like, oh, that's right. The Chargers actually have a coach again, whereas they really didn't have that leadership coach that they've had. The last time they had a coach to that level. So this is the first time I got concerned about the legitimacy of the Chargers. But the Chargers will charge you. They're not going to be actually legitimate.
No.
Football contenders. They'll get in the playoffs. They'll ruin my bet when I bet head-to-head most wins in the seasons between the Chargers and the Broncos. I'm not bitter. Don't worry about it. I'm not bitter, guys. Calm down.
I didn't pick up on that. Not even a little bit.
I'm not bitter.
Okay.
I'm not bitter.
Well, look, man. Look, at that point, Broncos are back to 3-3, and I'm going to pair the next couple games up together. We got a couple easier. What?
Do you have an agenda here, or are you what?
Yes.
Yes,
I definitely do. It's called time. We got NFC opponents Saints and Panthers. This was our first Thursday night game of the season against the Saints. And Broncos were able to handle both teams very, very well. And at the end of the Panthers game, here we are 8 weeks into the season, and the Broncos have already hit their 5-win expectation. And so how are you guys feeling after that point? John's making money.
money, baby. Not only that, just the domination of the NFC South. Like, wow. I mean, I feel like any team could probably, or most teams, probably 70% of the teams in the NFL could probably say that they would dominate the NFC South. But it's just hilarious to me that Sean Payton going back to his old division and just fucking running through all of them. Good for him. That's gonna feel good to beat the Saints. I think a lot of those players like were emotional about it. He was emotional about it. That's just like it's just a good moving on point probably for him. And I don't know, maybe we're gonna see some of these players on the Broncos coming up here.
Maybe. I know that especially those 2 wins were a little critiqued about like, you can't put too much stock into that about beating the Saints and the Panthers, but it's not like those were life and death struggles with those teams. These were emphatic, beat them with everything except the ring post type of wins. So even in those, you did learn something about the team because again, we didn't struggle with any of these with either of them. There wasn't a moment in the game where it was ever in doubt. We dominated and took care of business the way that we honestly should have. So for me, aside from winning, those were encouraging wins because we looked as good as we did.
And let's not forget that the Saints looked like Super Bowl contenders after week 2. Like they looked legitimate. The rest of the season did not go their way, but at this point in the season, that did not look like it was going to go as easy as it did.
Yeah.
I was just encouraged that we were starting to see a little bit of offense consistently.
Right.
And you know what? We had a lot of players that were unknowns to us that were stepping up. That was that Saints game was the game that Martin got after it. I mean, that man was playing like a man possessed. And if I'm not mistaken, that was the first start for 𝗕𝗿𝗲. Because I thought we had lost
Singleton.
Nah, that would have been the LA game.
That was the Jets LA game.
Okay. So 𝗕𝗿𝗲 was showing something too.
He was.
He had been showing. So we were starting to learn a little bit about this team. And the offense was looking good. And I thought, okay, well, we got the Third Reich coming up the following week against the Chiefs. So let's see what we can do.
Right. Yeah.
Is that too much?
No. Look, I think in general,
I don't want to get canceled.
Boy.
The Blitzkrieg was coming our way.
Between the Ravens and the Chiefs, we saw it coming. We knew that it was not going to, be easy to say the very least.
No.
But either way, at that point, you're sitting at 5-3 going, there's a lot of season left, and we've already hit what everybody basically
still one of those games.
Yeah.
Just one.
Yeah.
Ravens, that game just, you talk about a game that was close in the first half and just totally got away from us in the second half. And think about it. We held Derrick Henry to basically nothing in the first half. We shut them down. It was very close. It was the second half that Henry got basically all of his rush yards and just steamrolled us.
This was not a Derrick Henry game. This was this is a theme even including our playoff loss where we I blame this. I don't want to totally blame this on coaching because it's a very good team, but it seemed like the whole point of the game was to stop Henry and to contain Lamar Jackson, and we did that pretty well. And then we forgot about the whole other part where we also have to cover people. Like we can't do
the other
that
9 players on the field.
Yeah, like that's just too easy. And there are multiple games this year where that seemed to pop up, and it's always, to me, I'm still skeptical of this, but it seems like when we face that type of quarterback, that Lamar Jackson, that Josh Allen, that Antonio Richardson, that doesn't really count, but maybe Patrick Mahomes to an extent. Anyways, it doesn't matter. That we just overdo it to prevent something that we're not used to, I think, on the defensive side of the ball. And maybe the stats don't look great. Like, we hold Lamar Jackson to a certain amount of rushing yards, or we hold Derrick Henry to a certain amount of rushing yards. But look, he crushed us through the air on that game. And it's like, well, what happened on that? Like, you still have to cover people. So I that's where I was really bummed with his game, and it got out of hand quick.
It was. I think that was one of those measuring stick games that we were still kind of talking about. That especially like the Baltimore game kind of felt like one of those, like, things were gonna have to go. Like, we're gonna have to have a couple breaks to kind of keep the game within reach, and just it seemed like one mistake, then it snowballed, and whatever the case may have been from there. I still contend that it's a stylistic thing. With that, especially when you see the Baltimore game and the LA game, when the Harbaughs are able to take 3, 4, and 5 yards at a time, that is exactly how they want to play. They will take a 12-yard, 75-yard drive all day, every day. And you need to be very, very clean in your second level. And while we did have guys who played outside of where we thought they were, it's Justin 𝗕𝗿ście and Cody Barton. And that's no disrespect to them, because they're good players, but when it comes to passing, at least that's where we get exposed a little bit. So
I was disappointed because I thought we went into a shell once we started getting bullied again. It was it was like, well, this is where we are. I don't think at the beginning of the year anybody thought we were going to be close to in this game. And the fact that we were kind of close up until 2 minutes in the first half was good. But then after that, it was like, man, you're like, jeez. I felt better about the Kansas City game coming up, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was wanting one of these two. And I thought KC was the one we could take.
Yeah.
And that almost proved correct, too.
It did. And let's think about, like, the Broncos got beat down at the end of the day, 41-10 in, against the Ravens there. And you look back at the Broncos teams that we've seen in years past, and it's like when something goes wrong, they're just down on themselves for weeks on end. It's almost like they start losing the game and they all just kind of throw their hands up in the air like, here goes again, like crap, this is what we expect, right? This is what we're expected to lose, right? But you saw something in this team. And I know there's no second place trophies, there's no consolation prizes, but to go onto the road very next week against the Chiefs and for it to come down to a freaking blocked field goal. I mean, those guys did so well out there. It was really incredible to see that they hung in there. They fought against those guys. They did everything they possibly could. And it was like the week prior didn't phase them at all. They knew they were out there to win the game. The expectation was that they would win, and they did everything they could to make that happen.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I was in the backseat of a car for this entire game, watching this game on my phone with 2 crying babies and 2 other people that did not care at all about sports, and a third being my wife that was driving. I didn't think we'd win this game. Well, actually, no, I take that back. I thought there was a chance because the Chiefs had looked so bad at this point in the season and just looked like they were getting lucky and lucky and lucky and lucky and lucky and lucky at game after game after game. So what are the chances that we could break that freaking spell, that demon spell, whatever, I don't care. Demonic spell. And then to go that far and get that close, yes, it was ugly offensively in this game. Defense showed up. Offense did not. And then to lose that, as soon as that, like, when I saw that field goal get kicked, I was like, there is absolutely no way the Chiefs player was not offsides or something. You know, how did you jump it that well? Like, there's no way. That's not possible. By the way, that happened this last weekend, but the Chiefs got the flag in their favor. No, they timed it perfectly, and they actually, like, they were coached well, and, like, we learned a lot of lessons that week as a fan base. Hopefully, I mean, the coaches should have learned it weeks before, but that I didn't think I could be upset by that game, and yet I'm like literally cringing in the back seat, kind of screaming, kind of like just letting out weird noises, and everyone's like, "Are you okay?" I'm just like, "I don't want to talk about." My wife
Don't pass me.
At this point, my wife asked, "Well, what are the chances of the Broncos making the playoffs after that?" I'm just like,
Not now.
Don't talk to me.
Not now.
Playoffs.
Granted, there's like still 8 weeks left, and I don't know.
Right.
I knew what the odds were before that game, and I made it public, and I did not know in that moment. And
like I was watching.
I was not emotionally stable after this Chiefs loss for a solid 30 minutes.
I was watching the last drive, and what we should have been talking about is what Bo did in Arrowhead in under 2 minutes. Got that third down conversion, which was just plums, right? And it's like, we got this. And I remember them lining up and having this like weird feeling something here, and I'm just like, something does not feel right. I don't like this. And then it happens, and I would like to have a little bit of credit here that I did not yell, scream, nothing. I threw my hat on the ground and took a nice little stroll outside and came back. And it was my son, who's 4, and looked at me. And
you have a son? What the hell?
Yes, I am quite old. I am the oldest 12-year-old on the planet. But he looks at me and he's like, "Dad, are you gonna say damn it?" Yeah.
He said what?
He said, "Are you gonna say God damn it now, Daddy?" And I was like, "Oh no, Daddy's gonna be quiet for a little bit." I tell everybody, like, listen, we beat them everywhere except the scoreboard. And I like to listen to different media markets and kind of listen to their talk show or their sports talk after the game. And Kansas City fans are very much proud of their team. They will let anybody know that they are proud of their team. They, even after that game, were like, listen, Denver's not going to be bad forever. And this was a game where we kind of let everybody know that things are about to change a little bit around here. So,
Adam, do you want to take the time now to like just tell everybody how old you are, or do you want it to be a secret forever?
I am 41.
No,
baby.
Yes.
Just a baby.
41?
I am 41. Yeah, I promise. I wouldn't lie about that. I promise.
Well, let me just tell you, my son didn't say, "Daddy, are you going to say GD?" My son was dropping F-bombs. It was like, son of a boom, son of a bitch, yo, blah, boom, blah, boom. It was like a war zone in here. And my poor wife was in the other room, and she's like, Matthew. And I had to finally say, son, it's just a game.
Yeah, but
that's what I was like when
he's
I was
old enough. He's fine, Scott.
Oh my goodness! Because we were also on the road driving back from my father's 90th birthday party in Pueblo, and so we were driving back, and he was driving because I couldn't drive, not because I was drinking.
Okay,
I wish I would have.
Of course, obviously,
I had other things going on, but I couldn't drive, so he's driving, and I'm like, we got this. They're playing really good.
Oh,
yes.
And then we got home and we were still just tearing it apart. We got the ball back with like 5 minutes. I said, now, 5-minute drive, go down, kick the field goal, send these sumbitches back where they go. And we thought we had them. I thought at the end we should have just kept trying to get the ball in the end zone. I thought,
Scott, you're making me relive this. I'm in the back seat watching us drive with 5 minutes left. Like, there's no way. Holy cow. This might happen.
That was good, though. That was good. That was a big growth step for the offense.
Yeah.
Growth step for
growth step.
And
that was
okay. Well, next year, and I know we say this every year, but next year will be different. I guarantee you, Bo Nix is not sitting there watching our podcast. He's probably got his head in a playbook working out how to get better. And I
hope he is.
I like that.
Yeah,
we don't have to worry about who's going to be the quarterback in training camp, and maybe the starting quarterback will get the reps he needs.
Don't worry, Scott. In my 8 years on this show, I've never said the words that you just uttered. So don't worry. Next year's gonna be better.
I'm old. I gotta utter them now. Who knows if I can utter them in 2 years?
Oh, geez.
Well,
look, guys, at this point, the Broncos are 5-5. And before we continue on and maybe speed things up a little bit, couple quick announcements. First, Breckenridge Distillery 5280 Broncos blend, guys. This stuff is delicious. Make sure you check it out. They got the blue bottle, they got the orange bottle. Every year they get a couple ex-Broncos players to come help develop the flavor of the whiskey that they're putting together for the Broncos that year. They have a different theme. Like I think the year before was the champion blend. So we'll see what they're going to come out with next year. But make sure you guys check some of this out at your local liquor store. If you don't like whiskey, don't worry. They also got the Broncos Blizzard Vodka as well. So if you want to still support the Broncos and support Breckenridge Distillery, you can check out their vodka as well. So big announcement with them coming out tomorrow night. On tomorrow night's show at 7 p.m. Mountain Time is our fan appreciation night. So not only a big announcement, but just a great time for us to come together. We do this every season, at the end of every season, and just really say thank you to all of you fans for supporting us, through all of these years and tuning in week after week. So we're going to be giving away a ton of Broncos prizes. You are going to want to be there. You don't have to buy a ticket. You don't have to enter for a raffle, anything like that. Just show up, play along, and get your chance at winning some Broncos prizes. So seriously, thank you guys so much for all of your support. Tomorrow night's going to be a very, very fun time. 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Check that out for the fan appreciation episode. Okay, guys. So Broncos at 5-5, just lost to the Chiefs barely. But here we go. We go on a 4-game win streak. And I'm talking about a pretty decisive 4-game win streak. The scores we were putting up, the very next week we put up 38 points against the Falcons, held them to only 6. We sweep the Raiders for the first time in forever, winning on the road against the Raiders. The last time we had beat them on the road was when Peyton Manning was still around and Demaryius Thomas was still around. It had been 8 years. And so we get that. Yeah, exactly. We get that monkey off our back. We come back to a shootout against the Browns, beat them. A huge playoff potential game against the Colts as well. We ended up winning that one 31-13. And so we go very, very quickly from sitting at 5-5. Remember, thinking that we were only supposed to win 5 games that season, to now we're 9-5 over the course of 4 weeks. How are you guys feeling during that time period and at the end of that time period?
I wish we had picked this part of the season to not rush through, but
I know. We could spend an hour on every single one of these games.
Falcons, amazing. Wow. This team can compete against a potential playoff team, right? Amazing.
They were
38-6. This is a blowout. We could spend an hour just talking about that game alone. Raiders, fuck the Raiders, whatever. We beat them. They are trash. They are pure garbage this season. Next season, I'm a little concerned. Not truly concerned. It's still the Raiders. I'll probably never be concerned about the Raiders, even though anyways. Browns. That was freaking. We could spend an hour on the freaking Browns game, which we
already did earlier.
I guess we
You
did.
guys want to go back and listen to it? Go back and listen to that show. Yeah.
What a game. That was a crazy game. There's so many emotions in that game just thinking about it. And then the Colts, that was the most, that was such a big win for what we needed to get into the playoffs at that point. Going to that game and then not even just to beat the Colts, but beat them handedly, to be like, no, we are playoff worthy. You clearly are not yet. Maybe next year. I don't know. But no, we made it very clear in that game who was a serious competitor in that game and who wasn't. So this stretch was the most fun to be a Broncos fan, probably for the season. I think these 4 wins in a row was we had to kind of calm ourselves down after those 4 wins.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, especially after that. I was there in the stands for the Indianapolis game, and it felt like a playoff game. There was a lot of there was a good Colts fan show out there. Mm-hmm. They were rowdy, they were vocal, and when Benito took it back, man, it was one of those moments where sound just has emotion, and there was just an outpouring of just this, we're waiting for this. We've been waiting for this for so long. And it kind of that felt like the game where it kind of gave people permission, all right, we can be excited now because we're a good football team. We're not just a good story anymore. We're a good football team, and we should be a playoff team at this point.
Yeah, I was just super, super positive, and everything was starting to gel and come together.
Yeah, we were gelling.
It was exciting. Every game was just something different, and it was everything else. We were hanging out with Jason Kelce in the parking lot before the
that's so freaking cool, dude.
It was this is cool again to just be a Bronco fan. It was like you were seeing people you hadn't seen in years.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. And it kind of, unfortunately, it could have been a lot better had we just sealed the deal that Thursday night when we actually had it running the way it needed to be running. Yeah. And that was taking your heart right out of your chest.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
no. Look, football seasons have ups, they have downs. And we were riding high. Our playoff chances were looking incredibly good after that Colts game. And at that point, we're really looking at not more so if we make the playoffs, but what our seeding is going to be. And going up against the Chargers, we're looking at, okay, we could be either third in the division or second in the division. And that could have pretty big.
Yes. Yeah.
And the big playoff implications that could have had, right? So you can go back and look at, should we have, not taken that Thursday night game and just kept it as is? Hindsight's 2020. I don't know. It's one of those things, but Sean Payton was, I think, just more than anything telling his team, I believe in you. You guys are able to go out there and get this done. And so we're going to take what should be an advantage to us and go take our chance and roll the dice. Unfortunately, we came up short, but again, not by much, only by a score. You look at these losses, guys, all the losses except for the Ravens game, we lost by one score, and so it's not like we were getting blown out of the water left and right. But this game was definitely one. Again, both of those Chargers games are like, if I could have that back, man, that would be huge in what, ended up being the end of the season here. So.
Yeah. You gotta close the deal when you got them on the ropes, and we had them on the ropes 11 points, 2 different times.
Yeah.
And it just, was a combination of bad choices, not only by the team, but by the coach. And I don't know, we got to find a running game and consistently do it. We just got to figure that one out.
I forgot how bad this game was.
Yeah, it was painful.
I mean, you also have to remember how
Saints guy is correct. Yeah, we had him. We had him on the rope.
Like the margins, I mean, if you think about it, I think Mike Westhoff had at that point had to take the leave of absence as the special teams coordinator, and then Tremont Smith has the derpy play. Then we already had the block field goal. So those 2 contributing things may have cost 𝗕𝗿će his job. So you can say, like those 2 big mistakes are the reason why he's looking for another team right now. So when the margins are that small, like those are the decisions that you have to go your way. I mean, that's kind of like the most, as a little bit of a side note, that's like the most infuriating thing about the Chiefs. It seems like every single consequential call goes their way, and it's like, how?
Yep. The whole NFL agrees.
Like, I'm glad the rest of the league is waking up to the things that we've been saying for years now. Is just how? But anyway, I digress. Go ahead, John.
I should not be one to follow you up after making a comment on the Chiefs, but all right. What are we talking? Are we just talking about the Chargers game? Is that it?
Yeah. Any last thoughts on the Chargers?
No. Yeah, that was. Everything those guys said.
Everything they said.
Everything.
I remember that game because we so single-handedly had that in the bag at halftime, or just prior to halftime, I should say.
Yeah.
Whatever happened in that field goal, or was it a field goal or was it a touchdown? No, it was a field goal, right?
A punt.
They scored right before halftime and then they got the ball back.
Yeah.
We got the ball back, and instead of running a little clock, we decided we'd get cute. Ran some dumb plays, ended up punting to him, and then running into the guy.
This game is where a lot of the coaching decisions came into play in this one, right?
Yes.
Where Sean Payton's now having to answer a lot more questions than he did the last four weeks in a row. And that sucks. I think the whole purpose of that game was just like, don't lose focus. Like, come on, you guys fucked up. Like, we fucked up as a team. Right? Yeah. We blew a fucking lead that we should have kept. And it usually, having a family that loves Chargers, I'm used to the opposite, right? The Chargers are supposed to do this, not the Broncos.
Yeah.
Like, the Chargers are supposed to blow, a 12-point, 11-point lead at halftime. Like, that's them. What are we doing? We don't want to copy that.
Yeah, great point.
Yep. Well, here's the interesting thing, guys. You know, I keep hearing people talking about how strong the AFC is, and they keep using the same names: Mahomes, Burrows, Jackson, and Allen. They're like, this AFC is just so loaded with these four guys. And I'm like, you look back to this Bengals game, and within the next year, you're going to have to start adding Bo Nix to that conversation as well. You cannot start counting. You cannot keep him out. If you're going to talk about Allen, who can't beat Mahomes in the playoffs, if you're talking about Burrows, you're talking about Mahomes, you're seeing what Bo Nix is doing, you're going to have to start including Bo Nix, because look at what Bo Nix did and the Broncos in general in this game against the Bengals. I mean, it was a very low-scoring game for the majority of it. It was tied at 17 going in late into the fourth quarter there. God. So while the score shows 30-24, like, it was incredibly close. And the things Bo Nix did, 2 major passes there, and some solid 2-minute drive there to end the game. It was phenomenal to see what we did and take the Bengals into overtime, right? So, I mean, this game was, even though, again, we lost, I'm looking at the future of this team saying, this team ain't going to be on the losing side of these games for very much longer.
No.
I'll tell you what, this is the most extreme version of what our group chat can be. It went from, we suck, we're the worst, like, okay, whatever, we're moving on next season. There's no way in hell we're making the postseason. To, holy cow, what the hell happened here? We went from, okay, Bengals score, it's game over, to there's no, like, okay, like, yeah, let's see what Bo Nix can respond to, blah, blah, blah. It's like a minute 30, like, I don't even remember. I don't know if it was a minute 30, if it wasn't a minute, I don't know. It's like, he doesn't have time. Like, is this going to be a legitimate quarterback kind of situation? Holy cow, I became a believer in Bo Nix. If I wasn't a believer before this, and I was, but not to the extent that I am now, like, I wasn't going to buy a Bo Nix jersey until after this game. Like, I am buying a Bo Nix jersey now. My wife's going to hate it, but I'm going to buy 2 jerseys. After Pat Surtain wins Defensive Player of the Year and Bo Nix, because, like, these are 2 people that are going to be around forever. This was the craziest ending to a game we had. It's unfortunate we lost, but, like, this was insane. We shouldn't have been in this game. It was one of those things, again, where Bo Nix did his magic, and I don't know. I'm having a hard time just describing what happened here. So, Adam, I'm passing it. Just do it. Do what you do.
I don't know how he had those 2 long throws, because he doesn't throw downfield. So, I mean,
Bo Nix can't throw far, right?
You're right. That's the other thing. Yeah, Bo Nix doesn't have the arm. He doesn't have the arm to have the longest throw, the longest air yards in the NFL for this season. Sorry, I take your magic.
That was it was one of those, like, a wild emotional roller coaster type of games. I still felt like we should have had it. I felt like I don't say it too often, but I felt like Sean and the defense kind of let us down a little bit with some of the weird play calling, and again, the running thing, like Rich talks about, like, we just got to find some way to get that to be more consistent for next season. But if anything, again, we have a situation where we have a young quarterback who should not be succeeding in that situation, and just check, looks like the dude, looks like our dude. And so, while yes, we did not get it done when we should have got it done, you cannot be, like, any higher on, like, Bo Nix after that game. That's what I came away with.
I might have doubled down on Rookie of the Year after that game, or maybe it was the Colts game. I can't remember, but I definitely doubled down somewhere in there.
Man, Bo had some throws that just left you saying,
"Whoa,
how did he do that?" That, you know, and it seemed like Mims was on the receiving end on all of them,
Yeah.
But he just had some dimes, and and that's what I kept thinking is this guy's not supposed to have this kind of arm.
Right.
And this kind of, he doesn't take sacks. He is smart with the ball. And you know what? He's got a lot better arm than and his legs. I don't think they would have scratched the surface with that.
Yeah.
And they should have just gone for 2. Sean makes these weird calls where he's going to be ultra super aggressive. And then in the one time where you should be super aggressive, why would you want to go to overtime against Joe Burrow and just hope you get the ball first?
Because the tie does as much for us as a win does. So
it was
okay. But that was a weird freaking overtime too. Like we almost ended up tying in overtime. And to his point, I mean, we held them after the first one. They fucked up. Like we held them in the first possession.
Yeah.
The second possession, they missed a field. Well, they hit the uprights in the second.
They hit the upright.
But we couldn't do anything. We had opportunities overthrowing people.
Just so weird overtime.
Franklin in these critical moments, it just was like, what the hell are we doing?
This is my point to the future. Maybe we should think about different pass catchers. Or while we develop these young guys, but in overtime, I mean, there was a lot of back and forth in our group chat about, did we do the right calls? Did we make the right decisions in overtime? And it's like, at the end of the day, in my opinion, on third down, we had 2 drop passes, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, the play was fine if they just made the fucking catch.
Yeah, they just did their job.
That's what the Bills are saying.
We wouldn't have this conversation. And then we win the game, and then we really wouldn't have this conversation.
Yep.
So.
And that's what the Chiefs don't do.
Right.
They make the catches when I hate them, but I respect them because they do make the play when it needs to be made. And
I respect the Chiefs in the fact that when I don't hate the Chiefs. I keep having to catch myself in the last 2 days. I do not hate the Chiefs. Most of Broncos country hates the Chiefs, and that's fine. I respect that. I mean, I theoretically hate the Chiefs, but in what we're talking about now with the Chiefs, I hate the NFL. I hate the NFL for how they treat the Chiefs, for what they're giving to the Chiefs. I don't get it. I don't understand. I was not a believer of rigged games or rigging it for a certain organization until yesterday, and I really wasn't. And I gave luck a chance. I gave all of these things a chance, but after yesterday, you can't do it anymore. It's over. So I don't know now if the script going forward is that the Chiefs lose in the Super Bowl. Or if I don't know. That's okay. I'm a gambling person, so that's a big problem. I don't know if I should bet on the Chiefs because the NFL clearly likes them, or do I believe that the NFL is going to?
No,
I don't know. Is the NFL going to call a fair game to prove the point that they are going to call a fair game, and maybe the Eagles will come out on top because they should? Because the Chiefs should not even be in the playoffs. Let's be clear. The Chiefs should not be in the playoffs. They should be 9-8 in the regular season and not be in the playoffs. Yeah. But I digress.
Little off topic there, but we'll talk about that more after the Super Bowl when we do our post Super Bowl show.
We have post Super Bowl.
We'll figure something out. Now. Broncos are here, sitting at this point 9-5 or 9-7. And we're wondering, are we going to be able to hit double-digit wins? Now,
Okay.
Broncos pretty well know that that's going to happen because the Chiefs are rolling out their backups. Whatever conspiracy theory that the Bengals fans say happened.
Oh, yes. No.
Look, at the end of the day, the Bengals should
win 10 games, and then you can complain.
You know, exactly. But here's the interesting thing. If you look back, remember all of the score predictions, at least like from on TV and stuff, nobody out there had guessed the Chiefs were going to put out a big fat goose egg against the Broncos, even with their backups. They were still disrespecting the Broncos so much to think that the Chiefs were going to put up 14, 17, 20 points against the Broncos. And yeah, they had the Broncos to win, but they're like, oh, the Chiefs are so good that even with their backups, they're going to be in this game. And the Broncos go out there and just say, no, 38-0, and we're going to just demolish you. And we get to 10 wins and secure a playoff spot. And I mean, you go back to the beginning of the show, we're looking at maybe 5 wins. There's a lot of questions like, I'm not really feeling it this year to this is the year we get in the playoffs. Okay. So guys, I mean, thoughts.
Yeah. They didn't give a fuck. They said, we're coming out here. We're going to put our best team out here. And we're going to fucking win. It reminded me, I was at the preseason game against the Packers, and they said, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to put my best team out here. Yeah, you're going to put your backups out here because or maybe it was the second game. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was one of those preseason games. It's like no one gives a shit. But they looked fucking legit. And again, against the Chiefs, they looked legitimate. It is what I mean. I'm so thankful of how the outcome was that like it turned out how it should have, which is a team that is trying to be legitimate came out and like demolished you, even with your backups. I don't care if it's your backups. Look at how many teams play their backups on a weekly basis. They have injuries. They have different things going on. Like, yeah, okay, it's your backups. You still shouldn't beat them by 38-0. That's embarrassing. I don't care if it's your backups. That's embarrassing. You should at least make it, a closer game than that. So, fuck off. I don't give a shit. The whole NFL wants to hate on that game. I don't give a shit. Fuck off.
I remember being just like way more worried about that game than maybe that I needed to be. I remember just thinking
I was worried for that.
Just like, man, the Chiefs backups, I mean, they're going to have a ton to prove. And like, even I just kept getting the feeling of like, I don't want this to be a life and death thing where we got to like pull it out late to even scrape in. And frankly, like if we lost that game, no, we don't deserve to be we don't deserve to be in the postseason.
Right.
So it was very nice to have that game like decided by a certain by halftime. But it's still, there was like a kind of it was a very cathartic feeling, like kind of just as the game kind of started, like, okay, it's gonna happen, and we're gonna be playing ball next week, and that's a really, really cool thing that we're gonna be playing ball next week. Like, so it was an anticlimactic win, but it was still a nice win, and it's how. And
it was all climactic. I just came the whole time in that game.
And anytime you can rub the Chiefs' noses in it, it's just, that's a good day.
Yeah, I tell you, I was never worried about the game, and then I saw, the first drive or two, I was like, this is I just, I don't know that the Chiefs, not only did they play their backups, they played such a vanilla type of offense and defense. I don't know. It was kind of an empty win other than the fact that it pushed us into the playoffs. I would have much rather beat the Chargers to get in the playoffs or the Bengals in the playoffs. And my only concern was, God, this would really, really suck to lose this game.
Right.
By losing this game against their scrubs.
It has happened in NFL history.
It
Steelers have lost against backups to not make the playoffs. So
no, I know it has.
It's possible.
I wasn't super worried after the first drive or two.
I was pretty confident.
Yeah,
it would be. I mean, it would be part of the lore of the rivalry to have, like, remember that day when Denver was just supposed to walk over the Kansas City backups, but they rose up Carson Wentz and Carson Steele just stole it at the last. That's what got me worried. But like you're saying, after those first,
if that happened, I would have been. I don't think I'd be on the show. I'm pretty sure I would have resigned from the show.
I'm done.
And said, "Nope, I'm good. I don't care about football anymore." Especially if after that, then yesterday's game happened with the Chiefs. Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Like, I'm good. NFL, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, look, guys, we'll do some closing thoughts here. We're not going to necessarily go through the Bills game again, just because we did that just a couple weeks ago, and you guys can go listen to our post-game show from the Bills game. Brad, I know that you told us so. Yeah, okay. The Broncos lost to the Bills on the road against a very strong Bills team. The Broncos have the highest salary, the Broncos have the highest dead cap money hit against them and still made it to the playoffs with a rookie quarterback. So I'll eat crow now, but I don't think that's going to be a problem moving forward. So enjoy it now while you can, Brad. Look, guys, it was a fantastic season. Lots of highs, lots of lows. But let's do some closing thoughts around the room, guys, and just kind of, again, revel in the fact that the Broncos, with everything against them this year, and all the naysayers, still hit 10 wins, still made it to the playoffs, got playoff experience for this very young team. And the future is looking bright. John, what do you think, bud?
Yeah, what a weird, I don't know how to handle this off season. It's so unusual in the fact that we have all our draft picks. We have some cap space to play with, right? Like a year ago, if we had this conversation, we were like, are we a quarterback away from like being competitive? And now we can like definitively say, no, like we got the quarterback, right? So now what do we do to improve on that? So like my feeling going into the offseason is like you add 1 to 2 like high level starters on either side of the ball. I don't care. I really don't care. This team is like very balanced all the way through. Yes, I mean, don't get me started on tight end, but or running back 𝗕𝗿𝗲𝗵𝘁. That's going to be the biggest conversation of the offseason. Give me like 1 to 2 quality starters on. Give me 4 player starter. How about this? Give me 4 players total through free agency that are starter worthy, very good players, and 2 through the draft. And I don't care where you put them. Like, put them in different positions. I don't care. Like, this team is competitive. This is going to be a playoff contention team. I hope we continue making the playoffs. And yeah, we're going to be there very quickly, I think. I think this is a very dangerous team. I think it's this. And after yesterday, I think this might be a team that the NFL picks up as the one that they want to make a dynasty off of.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I could be wrong. It could be us or Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. I don't know. Like, if we do well next season, maybe the NFL will pick up on.
Maybe. I mean, I think that, I mean, what you guys are saying after in the offseason last season, I think it was a more than fair question to say, like, even if we do get quarterback figured out, like, are we really just that piece away, or do we have like holes everywhere? And I think it would have been absolutely fair to say, no, this team is at least maybe a couple years away from being, even in contention. So to kind of speed that up by a year, no, it is absolutely exciting. And I think that from the coaching hires, I think that we can kind of assume that maybe VJ is not going to be part of this coaching cycle, and that he's probably going to be with us another season. Yep. So that means the defense has another season of continuity. So now you're building on the past success with the players who've already been in the system, with your defensive coordinator. Same thing on the offensive side of the ball. Yeah, what can't we do this? What can't we do? I mean, even if we do, we, like you're saying, we add 3 more contributors, which is totally doable through the draft. We don't have a ton of guys that we need to bring back and via free agency. If you look at the list of guys, that's going to be addressed. That you saw what the front office did, addressing the roster last year with basically kind of going TJ Maxx shopping a little bit. So now that they actually have a little bit of money, not a ton, but they do have more to be able to do that. Yeah, like what can't this team do next season?
We're not the Saints.
Yeah, I think when you, like I was saying before, like when you listen to the way that Kansas City talked about Denver at the end of that Kansas City game in Kansas City, I think they had a suspicion that this was that things are changing. Let's just put it that way. So
yeah. I just, man, we got to get a running back that can be the guy.
Yeah.
And, every one of these teams, I mean, even Kansas City with Hunt, who I hate. Guy is a freaking scumbag. And it just drives me crazy that he got that.
How dare you?
Several years ago, he was such a bad person they had to just cut him.
How dare you?
He's refined. He's reformed enough to come back because they were desperate. I hate that guy.
Yeah.
But we need, we need a guy that's got that fire in him that can be our bell cow running back. I like what we did in the wide receiver area. And who knows? I just think Franklin might get it. I don't know. It'd be nice if he could, because the guy's got some speed. He's just got to figure out how to catch the ball consistently.
Yeah.
But, I like Vele, and who knows what we get in the draft or through free agency.
That's Johnson.
Boy, it would be nice to have a tight end. I don't know.
I have a strong feeling that wide receiver and tight end is going to be targeted, and running back.
Yeah.
All 3 of the positions should be targeted in free agency and the draft.
Yeah.
And I always love having a safety that is just a wild man. Somebody that's going to just put his nose right in everything and is going to be instigating. Not to the point that K-Jack was, where he's getting suspended and all that. But boy, I love to have somebody that is just always in the middle of everything, like Stewart was. I mean, Stewart wasn't a 30 player, but you know what? He was right in the middle of everything. And we've always had really good safeties, and we just haven't really for the last few years.
Yeah.
And K-Jack couldn't resist going
hard
over the line. He just couldn't resist.
Yeah, leaning opposite to Smith. For sure. You're right.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Well, look, free agency and the draft, we're going to be covering all that, guys, during the offseason. Make sure you're tuning in. We're going to be doing pre-free agency shows, post-free agency shows, stuff around the draft. We're going to be pushing out videos talking about all the free agent players that are out there the Broncos could target, the free agents that the Broncos do have. So a ton of Broncos content coming your way. Again, this show is brought to you by Breckenridge Distillery, 5280 Broncos blend. Guys, check this stuff out. Freaking delicious. And again, really cool that they get some ex-Broncos players involved every year to help develop those flavors and whatnot. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, Bourbon Broncos No BS Fan Appreciation Night. It is going to be a great time, guys. Make sure you tune in for that. Tons of Broncos giveaways. If you want to, show up and chat with us, hang out with us, and have a chance to win something, that's the place to be tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Bottom line, guys, this team has a very bright future, and it's going to be really exciting to see what these guys can do now that they have a little bit more cap space. Now that, players are looking at the Broncos saying, wow, if they did that with that little, like maybe this is a team that I want to go to. We're not necessarily the laughing stock of the NFL anymore. And it's going to be really cool to see what they're able to do. These guys have a whole off season to kind of prepare, look back on the experience they got this last season. They know that they're not, Super Bowl contenders yet. They're just not at that level, but they've seen where they need to get to be at that level. They've seen now what it means to play in a playoff game, and how that is different than regular season. And so, there's a lot of things going on there that with the right leadership, the right mentality, and the right drive, these guys can go, and really take a huge step forward next season as well. So we'll see you all tomorrow night. Scott, the flag man, John, Adam, you guys are fantastic. Thanks for hanging out with me on this longer show, but it's been a great time talking about the Broncos and everything they did this year. Let's start looking forward to 2025. Guys, I've got nothing left to say other than to end this as we always do on a very strong Go Broncos!
Go Broncos!
Let's go Broncos!
See you guys tomorrow. Adios.
Do what I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sipping goose, if it's right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone.